Welcome to a new series of videos titled Railways in a Nutshell. The videos will be educational in nature, and it came from a good friend of mine and subscriber who came up with this really great idea to add this to my series of videos on my YouTube site. The first segment will focus on intermodal transportation. This topic will be divided into three different segments. This first segment is going to focus on the history and earlier development of intermodal transport by rail. Many people may not be aware, but intermodal transport has been around for a very long time. One of the earliest recordings of it in history is going back to England in around the 1830s, where the English railways were putting coaches on flat cars. So it goes back a very long way. It was very limited, of course, and nothing compared to what it is today. And then moving forward, it really didn't start to become part of the industry as with regards to hauling freight in any significant manner until around the 1950s. Here I have a photo of a Canadian Pacific trailer being loaded onto a flat car in the 1950s. And this is kind of indicative of what intermodal looked like at that time. Now, the style that you see in that photo of a truck virtually backing a trailer onto and then between flat cars became known as circus loading. And the reason for that is that in the late 1800s, circuses began to load all their equipment on trains, and that's how they moved around the United States. And one, of course, one of the most famous circuses, which is the photo here, is the Barnum Bailey Ringling Brothers Circus, and that continued actually right up until 2017 when they stopped running those trains. So it ran for a very long time. So that's where circus loading is referred to, when they used to back the actual wagons and carriages onto the flat cars. And here is an example actually of a flat trailer being loaded in modern days circus style, backed on from a ramp onto a flat car. Now the advantage of this circus loading style of loading trailers on the flat cars is it could be done virtually almost anywhere in the railway networks back then. And this happened right into the into modern times, into the 70s. Now, what I refer to as modern times, I guess I'm showing my age a bit here, is 70s and 80s, and potentially even into the 90s and that. So what I've got here is a picture of a local ramp. It's obviously not in use anymore. It's up in Goderich, Ontario. But these, were in places such as, smaller towns. Peterborough, Ontario is another example. CN Rail had an intermodal ramp there. They were very insubstantial, but it was effective. You could virtually load trailers on flat cars almost anywhere as I mentioned, in the network. Here's another example on my model train layout of a portable ramp and a couple of flat cars being waited to be unloaded, or maybe possibly just loaded. And you can see on the one part, you can see the little flaps that flip down, and those go between the cars, and that enables the tractor to back the trailers between the flat cars. And as you can also notice, the flat cars originally were not that big, because the trailers were maybe 40 feet long or even shorter. They were little pups they used to load. As the equipment grew and so did the flat car sizes. They went up as big as 89 feet. You could have two 40-foots. Now, today, the funny thing is that the flat cars have gone back to being relatively short, as the trailers are now 53 feet in length. So the flat cars are virtually just big enough to handle one trailer, so about 60 feet in length overall. This style of trailers on flat car became over the years to be known as TOFC, or trailer on flat car. That's become the term in the industry over the years. Now, as containers became more and more prevalent through the years, another type of intermodal service arrived, and it was called COFC, or container on flat car. As overseas shipments grew through the years, so did this method of how to transport these shipments. Originally, it was virtually just crane loaded, offloaded onto ships, but the development of containers became a very instrumental way of how to move product, especially non-bulk product. And that product was loaded in these containers, loaded onto a ship, and then the ship, once arrived in port, could be loaded on a train, and then that train could go inland, and then the container could be loaded on a truck and delivered to a customer. In this photo, you can see on the right-hand side, there's an earlier style of a flat car with a container on top, or a COFC container on flat car. On the left-hand side of the distributed power unit, you can see a more modern double-stack container flat car or well car. However, that will be discussed in the next segment of this series. So that concludes the first part of 3 on intermodal transport by rail. The next video will be focusing on changes and growth in the industry. Thank you for watching another video in my Railways in a Nutshell series focused on educating people on railway subject matter. If you like this video and are interested in seeing more of this type of content, please subscribe to my channel. Also, if you have suggestions for other railway topics, feel free to send them to me.